What? Oh, yeah. Welcome to Bonehead Weekly.
Fun size. No,
Bonehead.
this isn't fun size.
This isn't fun size. No. So, gentlemen, we were supposed to have a guest tonight. Who was that guest?
Mick Strawn.
Mick Strawn. That's right. He's a famous production designer, isn't he?
Yes, and the ghost of a disheveled hobo.
Yeah.
Has a great book. Does a pretty good Jerry Garcia impression.
Yeah, he just doesn't even have to say anything. He just kind of gets on stage and kind of picks up a guitar while he plays the CD.
Yeah,
Kind of weird. It's like Guitar Hero.
I thought cutting off his own finger was a little too much, but he went full Garcia.
He went full Garcia. Speaking of Garcia,
also,
I'd like to have some ice cream.
I would say he also enjoys Cherry Garcia. Are those linked? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't like cherries in my ice cream, but I'm getting off topic.
I'm more fish food, actually.
Yeah, but you're not talking about ice cream anymore, are you?
Oh hell no! I just hit that just right down the gullet.
Well, they're good lean protein and whatever.
So Mick, it literally is no showing on us right now. We have texted him 2 or 3 times. What were you going to say?
I just had a picture of me laying in a bathtub under the water, Jay throwing the fish food out of me. Going,
maybe we should do that for your profile pic. We really need to change our profile pics anyway for the show. I mean, it's been 4 years. We could update some stuff.
Whatever your erotic fantasies are, Chad, I'm fine with you including me in them. I guess I don't. What the hey? At least I'm included.
That's true. It's good to be wanted. Are you drinking bourbon?
No, I'm drinking watered down Mountain Dew that I had left over from teaching because I just got out of teaching. Well, not
wearing that.
No, I had to change to address my various war wounds.
Oh, okay.
I fought the war against mediocrity, and mediocrity done whooped me.
Done whooped you. You know, speaking of you drinking Mountain Dew, I was having lunch yesterday with someone who was thin and pretty. And I said, can I get anything? No, I not that he's not man pretty, just not my type of pretty. And I said, can I get anybody anything? I'm getting up to get a refill. And she said, yeah, more mellow yellow. And I was trying not to laugh because I was thinking if I drank that much mellow yellow, I wouldn't have my toes.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I can't. Like, there was a time in my youth where I'd line up 3 Mountain Dews and a Snickers, and that'd be my dinner while I worked on papers and stuff. And that time is dead. I done killed that time.
Yeah, before it killed you. Now Mick didn't show, so he gets pissed at us. He's a good friend. What are you showing us?
5 minutes. Sorry, from Mick.
Does he really say 5 minutes?
Okay.
We'll just keep recording.
We'll just keep recording, let him join us, and then we'll act like nothing has ever happened. And when he goes back and rewatches this, he will be surprised, and then he will sue us. Well, if he's coming,
what he'll do is he'll steal my fish food idea, bastard.
Probably.
You won't be upset.
And make actual money at it.
Yeah, he'll go, hey, honey.
It's just funny because Mick bitches at us about guests. Mick wanted to be a guest. He's a great guest. He's one of our favorite guests. He's one of our favorite people, but he's being late for his own episode by 25 minutes. Yeah, 25 minutes.
Now, in all fairness, he's kind of due. For the first time we actually had him on the show outside of meeting him on Scarefest, we made him sit there for over 30 minutes while we figure out technical details.
That's true.
I have no recollection of that.
Yeah, no, that's true. And in all fairness, is there anybody that would make a better diva than Mick?
I mean, they're prettier ones.
Who?
Chad. I don't know. If I say an actual person, I just come off as a sexist a-hole.
So, yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to get a beverage while we wait on Mick. I'll be right back.
Well, what do you mean get a beverage while we wait on Mick? We're recording. Did he leave? He left.
This is a show. Yeah, he flipped to no camera off immediately. How did he do that?
Why is his head cocked so weirdly? If you're listening to us right now, I want you to go to YouTube, and this is going to be on minute 4 or 5, and I want you to look at James's profile, just his basic profile pic, that when he's not using Zoom or not using video on Zoom. It's so weirdly.
Yeah, I mean, mine does that, but mine does that instinctively because my right eye is stupid.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, but what the hell? Who told him to sit and stand like that?
Oh man, it flashes back to when I was in high school and we had our high school pictures, and the photographer obviously didn't know what to do with this grotesque ogre of a human being.
Oh, so don't go that far. Was your sister there?
Good one. Yeah, she was eating the goat.
Well, somebody's usually eating her.
Oh my God. So anyway, they said,
I'm just sad it wasn't me.
They said, take your hand, put it underneath your chin and crook your elbow up in the air and kind of tilt like this.
Like you just don't care.
And then that is the picture that is in my senior yearbook.
So basically you're showing your armpit in your senior photo.
Like I'm sniffing my armpit. Yeah. Through my hand.
At least you don't have a mullet. I mean, I'm stuck with a mullet for the rest of my life in those pictures.
Yeah.
Are you talking about your birth announcement?
Yeah, my birth announcement. I was like, oh my God. No, we were looking at your weird ass picture when you go away. Why is your hair? Oh, so, well, it's just I don't know enough about geography to give the geometrical. Yes, I know that's a lame joke, but your head's tilted weird in that.
That's the way that the photographer said. Literally, I was normal.
Was the photographer Barty Feldman?
I don't know. I don't think it was anybody that I had that much esteem for. No, it was a photo shoot for work, and they literally took 18 different photos of me, and the photographer got to pick the one that they felt was best. And I saw the others, and most of them, I'm straight on camera, the headroom, all that stuff looked fine to me. And they picked that one where it looks like I'm having some sort of neck spasm and my head's at a weird angle. I mean, it's almost like they caught me right before I was going to sneeze.
It kind of looks like instead of looking at the camera, you're leaning to the right to see if there's the donut that's behind the photographer.
Yeah, I agree. Like literally, of all the photos they took that day, they took 18 photos of me. Because it was supposed to be, they wanted a professional photo that they could use if I get a book published, and that's the one that they chose to keep on file. That's my file photo for all my work.
How the other ones looked. Was your head even more?
They were good. They were, I mean, literally, they looked much more staged photo book coverish than that one to me. But what do I know? I've never actually published a book. So maybe I'm just the idiot.
I don't think you're just an idiot. I mean, you have many other horrible qualities.
This makes me have an idea for a show. Now, hear me out on this. A production designer that has knowledge of special effects and things like that has to go on the run from these people pursuing him.
Yeah,
pursuing him. We call it Mick Quest.
Isn't that the plot of FX and FX2?
Nobody remembers those movies, though. That's why I don't work.
I remember it.
Nobody that counts.
Brian.
Nobody that counts remembers him. But Addams Family 2. I know you weren't a huge fan of the first one.
I was not in any way, shape, or form.
Okay,
me and the kid got bored.
I was okay with the first one. I mean, it's a kid-friendly version, and it's based on the Charles Addams cartoons, which weren't kid-friendly, but they kid-friendly the old cartoons, the New Yorker cartoons. So I was okay with it. I saw what they were trying to do. This one, was I entertained? Did I have a couple? That's clever. Yes, I did. What I recommend, it doesn't feel right. I mean, it's they go on a road trip, and there's they're going to go to Death Valley, they're going to go to all these places, and that's kind of the joke. I mean, it's not as good as the first one, and so if you don't like the first one, I don't know if I recommend it. But that being said, my kids loved it, so there you go.
I kept asking. I asked him like 3 times every time he'd see a trailer. You want to see that? No.
You can't be within 50 feet of Mick Strawn. Oh, it's Mick. Hey.
Well, no. I mean, according to Megan's Law, hey, Mick.
Hey, old Jesus is here.
Okay, so
Jesus is out of shape.
Hey,
40 days and 40 nights, bitch, was you on a chocolate bender.
That's fat Jesus to you.
He's the fat Jesus.
Hey. So
well, we're going to have to reinforce that cross.
I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there with my wife, and she's going, "Well, didn't you have this thing tonight?" And I go, "Oh, no. It's in another 45 minutes." And she goes, "Well, aren't they in another time zone from you?" And I go, "Yeah, they are, but
that's okay. We're not important."
Hold on, let me do this just to make Joe mad. See, time is the fire in which we burn. That's one of Joe's favorite quotes.
Is it your wife? Is that who you're trying to get into the frame?
No. It was my dog.
It's Toby.
Toby was asleep, and I didn't want to bring him up. And then Paula just delivered him. I guess he woke up. So
yeah. Well, welcome back. We haven't said one bad thing about you. You can listen to this later.
Well, you can do it later. You know what you can do? You could do it later and then cut it in.
Oh yeah, shit.
Let's do a lot of stuff that we have to fix in post, since I have no responsibility for editing this.
That's a big one right there.
Yeah, we'll just fix it in post. Mick Strawn, one of our favorite people in the whole wide world. I'm not going to ask you how you're doing tonight, but I will ask you this question.
Sure.
Is this only one question?
Only one.
Only one.
What do you get?
Are you going to tell me about those movies that you signed all those
God.
The closest I can get to it is Pinocchio. It's
in other words, you're not going to tell me.
No.
You're leaving Joe up to make a monster joke.
I'll tell you why I can tell you about the Pinocchio one. It's because absolutely everybody hated this film so bad that I would have everybody on my side. So Roberto Benigni.
Yeah, I remember.
Did a Pinocchio.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever got a chance to see it.
I only watched about 10 minutes of it.
It's terrible.
Can I give our audience a little, if you don't know who that is, he just won an Academy Award for
Life is Beautiful.
Life is Beautiful, where they're dealing with the Holocaust and people being burned alive. So keep going.
Right. And so he had decided that what he was going to do is he was going to do the true story of Pinocchio, right?
Mm-hmm.
And America being Americans, the only way that we can conceive of Pinocchio after Disney has done their bit with it is a children's film, right?
Yep.
It's a children's story. So they said they brought it over, and then this company that I worked with that I was a part of, they said, well, listen, here's what we need to do. And it's, one of those meetings where you sit around the table and the big table and said, all we have to do is we're going to sell this to the American audience, and the American audience, this is for kids. Right.
Uh-huh.
And then they proceed to show us the film. Now, first of all, it's just unintelligible. I mean, but there is a scene in it. There is like a practically 5-minute long scene of them hanging Pinocchio, which is Roberto Benigni, like, and then swinging, and then they cut from silhouette to his face, going, in torture. And I swear, I'm not kidding. At the end of it, you're just sitting here going,
that would explain the Happy Meal toy that I got of Pinocchio hanging. Now I know the history of that. That's obviously a story for the children.
It's obviously right. And so what they wanted us to do was to, obviously we couldn't use any of the footage off of the film because it was horrific. And it had this really dark tone too, it was essentially like behind me here, right? It was like it was just dark and depressing and horrifying, and him being hung was the action sequence.
Jeez.
It's oh god, it was awful.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it, because I think I've only ever seen a few minutes here and a few minutes there.
Yeah, it's just pretty weird. I mean, maybe it's Italian, I guess.
No, I don't think so.
The author was Carlo Collodi, right? Was the original author.
Right.
I haven't. I tried to read
Have you ever heard anybody say anything about it?
No.
No.
Right?
No, I've heard people talk about how terrible it is. Yeah.
But people forgot about it.
It came and went. It is so bad. It is on the other side of bad. So here it's like bad is like ha ha ha. No, it's bad. On the verge of uncomfortable, right?
Right.
And if you get all the way through the death scene, through him being hung and stuff and pulled down. And by the way, that's really early in the film, and you're like, oh man, I don't know.
Right.
I just felt I felt 50% embarrassed and 50% just horrified, and so here was
100% turned on, but keep going.
Well, exactly. I was as hard as a log. I mean,
they said Pinocchio was hung,
and they was right.
Yeah, and they weren't kidding. It's like iron. So anyway,
sorry.
So then they brought us in and said, "Well, what can you do to sell it to the American audiences?" And I go, "Well," and all of us had different, really stupid ideas. I mean, he's juggling oranges and basically, I think that we finally settled on 2 locations. Like one of them was in a castle, and it was like he breaks through the door, and when he breaks through the door, it breaks in the shape of Pinocchio, right? Going through the door. Which, by the way, let me just tell you, that is not nearly as easy as you would think. The cartoons make it look so easy, but if you cut out something for somebody to go through it like that, you pretty much have to make sure that they're going to go through in that particular shape, or you wind up impaling them on the little point in between their.
Right. So you're saying Wile E. Coyote was full of shit?
Right. Totally full. You know what? That wasn't true. It wasn't true.
I feel like I've just been lied to.
So we did this. We did this. He's in a china shop. He's in a market, right? And the market has got a lot of glass in it because his nose keeps getting longer and longer. And basically, being as we didn't have Pinocchio, all we had was this fake nose that we'd made. And we put it in front of the camera and went and banged things around. And oh God, it was awful. So it gets released. And here's the thing. I've never been able to find it anywhere. Right. And I know that it was released.
It was. I remember.
Yeah, it was released.
Yeah.
But I know that our promo for it was released. And not only was it released, but I was driving down the road one day in LA, and Mark and Brian, which were the 2 wacky DJs, that they every year they had their most deceptive advertising awards.
Yeah.
That commercial got the most deceptive advertising award.
Congratulations for being a liar.
And then somehow or other, the company then just made it disappear. This was it wasn't pre-internet, but it was at a time where you could actually still do that.
Yeah.
And there is it's back, it's gone. It doesn't exist. But it was pretty embarrassing. But let's just say that in general, that was kind of the thing that kind of going in and fixing. And sometimes we would fix things at the promo phase. Sometimes we would fix things. It depended. Like we would have to look at the film and say, well, what do you think? And then they would then they would pay us money.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of things that were also on the film itself. And I just can't, I wish that I could say, but they got kind of nested NDAs,
Yeah, I get it.
And just in case anybody is fascinated about this Pinocchio story, just as a point of clarification, we were talking about about 2002 Pinocchio, not the Roberto Benigni one where he plays Geppetto that came out in 2020.
2019.
No, not this one. Not this one.
I forgot all about that, but you're right. He did do another. Yeah.
Which
that
makes
was his
me
last
think,
film.
Which makes me think, how many versions of something should I star in? Maybe one of these days I'll get it right.
Well, the great thing is they're trying to adapt. They're still trying to adapt the commercial dance from 1940s, right?
Yeah.
From that one. So anyway, it was a horrifying experience, and I do remember that at one point there was and the camera crew that we had were kind of dicks because they weren't our normal crew. They were like we actually had to get another camera crew because our guys weren't there, and we wound up actually this guy they wanted a shot of like fruit coming up at the camera, and they were being dicks about it. and the thing is I just distinctly remember that we were working with an air mortar that had like 8 pounds on it in order to make the fruit jump up.
Yeah.
And so the camera guy is laughing at me. The camera guy is laughing at us, and I distinctly got on. And I mean, I had enough with these people. I mean, it was just nothing seemed to be going right, and they were kind of dicks. And so we were at 8 pounds, and then I got on the radio and I said to my guy that was operating the air cannon, and I said, well, turn it up to 80 pounds. And I distinctly remember this click, click. Mick, this is going to sound funny, but it actually honestly said, like you just said, 80 pounds on the air mortar. I said, that's Roger. And I took out an entire lens and about 30% of the cameraman himself. From down there, he was coming after me. Yeah, it was one of those, sometimes it just works that way.
Sometimes you just gotta fuck over Mick Garris while you're trying to shoot critters too. Making him wait on his explosions. But hold on, I do have a question. Now, even though I said I was only going to ask one, have you ever, while you were doing these, when you were either, and let's call them spicing up trailers, the movie, whatever, did you ever have a filmmaker come after you? Get mad at you?
No.
The actual director?
No. These were never made with the actual. No, you have to understand is that.
Or no, I mean one where you're like, you're fucking up my movie. I can't believe you done this. And who was that guy?
They would never know who I was.
Okay.
Here's the thing. They would never. I mean, one of the first things that I insisted on, and I had 2 other partners. One of the first things that we insisted on is so that they would never know who we were.
Okay. I was curious.
It had to be done after a certain amount of releases. We were done in that weird, the producer usually wrangles to get the producer's release is the one that always gets in the theater. The director by that point is
gone.
Yeah. And usually the people that I would have been working for 90% of the time was the producer, the producer or the executive producers of the film. And it was always really close to release time. So no, I mean, they would never know. They would never know that I touched it. And the thing is it would all be within rights, and they would never know.
So really quick, we have Mick Strawn, our friend who's a great production designer on the show. He's been back, but you were late coming in. And what I was going to introduce before we started is that normally when we have guests, I have a list of questions. I know James and Chad sometimes have a list of questions, and I went out of my way this time. I was even sitting at work busy today thinking, no, I got to take a time and write some stuff down. I want to ask him. I was like, no. Let's do this like Mick does this. Now, Mick, what do you do? How do you prepare? I want you to tell the audience how you prepare before you go do a Q&A or one of these interviews, because you are a great storyteller. How do you prepare? Tell us, oh wise one.
I show up. And obviously sometimes I don't even do that.
we're not even remotely angry. I was making jokes earlier and I was like, oh, now I feel bad because you're a friend. That's actually the reason why I was joking with you. But so you don't prepare. You don't know what you're going to say before you got there, before you get here.
Never.
You go out of your way not to know what you're going to say.
Look, here's the thing. You and I are both hearing this for the first time.
Yep.
And I like it that way. You know, I mean, honest to God, Joe, I got to tell you the truth. I start so many of my sentences with not knowing how they're going to end.
I know. It's how you live your life.
What?
I know that's how you live your life.
It's how I've gone to this point. I would never. Hey, listen, I don't know where I am right now, but the way that I got here is not knowing where I am right now.
Yeah. Right.
I think I just went cross-eyed, but that's it.
Well, that's okay.
I had a guy. No, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I was 2 blocks from my house. I was getting milk one day, right?
Yeah.
I stopped at a stop sign, and I lived in a pretty good part of town, right? Mm-hmm. I stopped at a stop sign, and a guy jumped in my car. And he said, you got to get me across town. You got to get me up to Fairfax right now. And I drove him to Fairfax. I'm not kidding. I am the only person that I know that literally looked up the sky one day and said to like the guy that was in my car in another country, right? We both looked up and I said, hey, you know what? I'm not kidding. It looks like that plane is going to hit that air. I said, and I did it this way. I said, you know how when you see a plane and a helicopter moving towards each other and you think, you think they're going to hit each other and they never do, and they did.
Oh my God.
That was a very, very, very strange day. I was caught in traffic. I was in Auckland, of all places. I was doing Hercules, and my art director is in the car with me, and we are just halfway between one bridge and another, and we were in traffic, which you have to understand that there's never any traffic on this freeway. I mean, you know, rush hour is probably like 20 blocks long at best, and you slow down to like 45. Okay. And we were stopped. And I was like, wow, what the hell is that? And there was an accident ahead of us, right? And the police copter comes from one way, and the airplane from the news was coming from the other way, and they right over us, they picked that moment to try and cross lanes. They hit each other, and we were just both looking at them at the same time, and it was like, I remember that I saw them through a windshield, and I went, oh fuck, and we both jumped out of the car, and it was like the helicopter crashed right on the overpass right in front of us and burst into flames. And it was so hot that you could feel that flame coming off of us, off of it. And the airplane was still spinning in the air, and he spun, and then he somehow kind of halfway got it in control, and he was just aiming right towards us. And we just I was like, oh, well, there you go.
Well, hell of a way to go working on Hercules in New Zealand.
I don't know how I got here, but I got here for that. So look it up like this, and he somehow pulled it up just enough to crash on the one behind us. And it was actually uncomfortable. I thought that my hair was going to curl from the heat on both sides of us.
Jeez.
Let me tell you something about people. People are kind of disgusting, because we had to sit there for 3 hours. We sat there as witnesses.
Yeah.
We had to fill out a police report, and I get back to my office. I sit down at the office. My art director sits down across from me, and all of a sudden, one of the set dressers just walks up and he goes, hey, Mick, how many policemen does it take to operate a police helicopter. And I said, I don't know how many. And he says 4. No, he said 4. One is the pilot and 3 in the ashtray.
Oh. I'm assuming there were no survivors on either one of these crashes.
6 people dead.
Jeez.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the killer part of that, because my life always has like this. It has the same hit that every horror film would have, right?
Right.
So what would be the horror film second hit for that? Is in another 3 weeks, I got on a plane and through 17 hours. And I got to watch, after still running that
in your head,
thing in my head, I got to watch, and I don't know if I'm sure they don't do it anymore, but they used to have the screen that showed where you were in the middle of the Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's just fucked up all the way around, isn't it?
I don't have anything that I could add to the story, but it just reminds me of my one moment of being on a plane where I was like, this is how it ends. Was I was driving back, and a colleague had convinced me the secret to flying was to take the red-eye flight. It told me, oh, we'll get there at midnight. The flight goes out at midnight. We'll get there at 10, get checked in.
Right.
You'll be able to sleep. I'm not going to be able to sleep on the flight. We're flying back, and we were flying back from Las Vegas, layover in Chicago or wherever. But literally, and we're flying the cheapest airline. I don't want to say names because I don't want to be sued by Frontier. But anyway, we're flying back, and
you don't want to say the name, but it has a great spirit.
Yeah. But we're flying back, and literally, they've got the lights dimmed. There's a bunch of people sleeping. I'm not, because I don't like heights, and flying's not bad, but all of a sudden it just comes over. The captain comes over real quick, going, "No, we got some flight turbulence coming up. I'm going to drop about 250 feet now." Bam! Actually, it's 500 feet. 500 feet. Bam! Literally, I get that moment of weightlessness as he just dived it. And he goes, "We'll be fine the rest of the flight now." And I literally, a bunch of people wake up and they're like, "Did something happen?" I'm white knuckled in the seat going, "Yeah, something happened, man. Something happened." So yeah, no, I can't compare to crashes and all that stuff, but I will never forget 500. We're going to drop 500 feet now.
Oh my
That's
God.
like flying with my dad.
I thought you were going to go another way with this.
Yes, well, that's
So
well, he would have, but he's still alive.
Oh,
bingo.
So I was sitting
what
here.
What are you on now?
I've got another question.
Sure.
You worked on a shit ton of New Line pictures.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Did you work?
You know what?
Yeah.
When they say the house that Freddie built, it's really funny. I was talking to a director friend of mine. Oh, great. Completely.
Is it the one who directed Freddy's Dead?
Oh, no. Halloween 3.
Tommy Lee Wallace?
Leatherface.
Oh, Jeff Burr.
Jeff Burr. So, talking to Jeff Burr, and Jeff Burr said that if it's true that Freddy is the house that Freddy is the house or that
New Line is the house that Freddie built.
New Line is the house that Freddie made, then you might as well just say Mick Strawn is Mick Strawn is that house. So I built that house. God damn it.
Well, no judgment. I'm sitting here. So my kid has got into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I got a good story about that, but yeah, go.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask. I'm sitting there going, all three of these pieces of shit were made by New Line. Mick had to have had some experience with these. Because by the way, I've had to watch Go Ninja, Go Ninja. Oh my God. He gets so excited at the Vanilla Ice part. And yesterday he really was singing to the floor, Go Ninja, Go Ninja, go, his head bouncing. And I was like, God.
Well, one day I was in the offices up there and I can't remember what project I was working on, but I would stop and talk to anybody. I just wander into their offices and talk to them, while I'm waiting for something, or because I knew freaking everybody there. Well, I was talking to Sarah Risser, and Sarah Risser goes like this. Sarah, she's talking and she goes, man, she says, I got to tell you, we bought, she says, I bought this thing for $3 million and I can't get anybody to be interested in it. I go, what are you talking about? And she goes, well, it's just this little film. It's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? And she was like, she says, I can't get anybody to even finish listening to the title of it. And I was like, yeah, you need to change the title of that in order for somebody to actually listen, to take it seriously. And it took her another year and a half. They had that project forever before they finally decided, let's just do it.
So were you on any of the sets for any of those three?
No, we literally New Line bought that as a negative buyout. It was
it was an independent film.
Were all three of them made independently and New Line picked them up? Just the first one?
I don't know about the second two. All I know about is the first one. I know specifically about the first one because I know that they literally owned it for a while and had no idea what to do with it because they hadn't come up with them. They were not used to at that point, or they were used to negative pickups, but most of their negative pickups back then were that they were used to was like Reefer Madness.
Yeah, right. Now that's how Bob Shea made his living.
Right.
Till mid 80s, really. I mean,
absolutely.
People don't remember New Line, negative pickup Texas Chainsaw Massacre and other things. And he started out showing movies through college campuses across the country. In the late 60s and the 70s, correct?
Right. That's correct. But then they had to then they had other people. They grew really. They grew quickly. I mean, from the beginning of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 to,
Lord of the Rings
that was an incredible growth spurt for them. And I don't think that they really understood. They had a New York office, which was basically started in New York.
Yeah.
Jack Shoulder, the guy who I'm working with Jack Shoulder right now again. Jack Shoulder, who did Nightmare on Elm Street 2, used to cut their he got they would get European films and weird surfing films and stuff like that. And I remember this because I always say exactly the same thing. Bob Shea would say, take 20 minutes out of it and then we're going to re-release it.
Right.
And the process of taking 20 minutes out of it improved it no matter what it is. I'm telling you, I don't care what it is. You take 20 minutes out of it, it's going to be a better film.
So that leads me to, I'm sorry, I'm cannibalizing. You guys got questions?
Oh no, what I was going to say, and actually going back to that, my kids have been. We introduced my kids to they're 8 and I lied. That's not wrong. They're 10 and 12. But I introduced them. My wife said, I think we need to show them Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one. I said, okay. Well, that actually got them interested because my son has been exposed to violent video games his entire life. And he goes, well, it's not that scary. But he said, I am interested in some of the things. So he started watching Netflix, Movies That Made Us. And as we were watching it, all I could keep thinking is, when are they just going to have an entire season of Mick Strawn stories? I think they need Movies That Made Us, Electric Boogaloo.
Well, let me tell you something. This is for your kids because I want to tell you how I saw Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. I saw them both as classic journey fables, right? Sinbad the Sailor kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I saw them that more than I saw them as horror films, because I mean, Freddy is going to be what he's going to be, right? And the thing to me, and this is when we did 3, the thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to make them Bob said, everybody has to bring we're going to take 3 major items, and we've taken care of the Superman problem by rewriting it, by bringing in, what the Superman problem is, right?
What do you mean? Explain yourself.
Without kryptonite,
yeah,
Superman would never make an interesting film.
Agreed. Right? It barely makes one now. To keep going.
Right, exactly. It's a problem. Is if you look at that film, if you look at any of those films, and you realize that the biggest problem that they could ever have is that, and it's a problem I have with Superman, is until you can figure out somehow to shoehorn kryptonite in, it's just not an interesting film. It's just not an interesting premise, because the guy can do everything and anything, including spending time back and changing everything. I mean, how do you have how do you create conflict?
Yeah.
You have to put something in a suitcase and carry the suitcase to him and open it up and go, kryptonite, right?
Yeah.
That's the Superman problem, and Superman has always had it. And it's why it's such a hit and miss project, right? So we took care of the Superman problem by her being able to bring people into the dreams, because then we can get together, because the Superman problem is this: eventually you got to go to sleep, right?
Yep.
And so unless you bring Freddy out of the dreams, which they did on 2, massively unsuccessfully, I might add, unless you bring him out of the dreams, then it isn't going to work. So that was number 1. We were going to, bring people out of the dreams. The second thing that we did is we have a real, and Bob Shea, I was in the meeting that developed this, and Bob Shea is like, we obviously have got a better actor than, we don't have a guy in a rubber mask, right, and we're not using him. And so we're going to create this suave, kind of strange dichotomy character, that you want to laugh at as he's killing your heroes, right? That's exactly. So the second thing was to use Freddy. And the third thing was, that's why they had me. It's because the third thing they say, and I say, okay, that goes along with what I'm saying. What I'm thinking is that we stop doing these as location films, which is what they had been. Not only had they been location films, they had been very specific location films. Like we're still on this street, right? I said, we're going to stop shooting on location. We're going to come onto the stage, and we're going to I'm going to figure these out like you're walking through one of those carnivals that lands at Target, right?
Yeah.
I want that kind of interesting movement that, I want it to be interesting. I want it to be a journey film, right? And the third, and then the fourth, and I had so many people ask me, he says, well, if that's what that was, then what's 4? When I was on 4, I said, well, 4 is then definitely going to be Disneyland. And that's the interesting thing about those 2 films. And I keep telling people about this. None of the rest of the films has that. Those are both journeys.
Yeah.
I do want to say something, because I honestly, Halloween, we just over Halloween. I think it was because we talked to you. We had dinner with you when you were in town.
Right.
I just
suddenly dinner with Mick Strawn.
Yeah.
I had a blast.
I was trying to look for something. I was trying to watch something to watch for Halloween, and I turned on HBO Max, and there was Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4 and 5 and in my queue. So I'm like, I'm watching them.
Right.
And I will say this, you can definitely get the Mick Strawn look in those 2 films, because it's claustrophobic. It's dirty. Just looking at those sets make you want to have a tetanus shot. And it is so dark and amazing. And I think honestly, so 3, 4, and 5 tell an ongoing story.
Right.
And that's lost in 5 because they don't have that look.
And see, that was not part of my look. That the 3 and 4, my sister came on as my set decorator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by the time we got to the 5th one, and I think she did the 6th one, it was just her look.
Yeah.
And she didn't have, the magic of the journey, the going, like there's a higher concentration on these kills and where we are on the kills and stuff.
Yeah.
But getting there is not as interesting,
Right.
And that's how I saw it. I mean, that we really we're on a journey, and that it's kind of a weird magical journey.
And that was my main thing with 5 is it honestly, Mick, it just looked too clean. It was wide open. Everything, nothing was cramped in. It was just like, I was watching 3 and 4. And by the way, I do want to say this. I forgot how big of a crush I had on the naked model in part 3.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. I think it was either her or Paula Abdul that was my awakening as a child. And I'm leaning more towards her.
I gotta tell you the character, I forget his name, but the guy
I think it's Joey.
But the guy that played Joey, he got all the tits and then he got tortured for it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we put that guy, we showed him, we said, oh, guess what? You're gonna see these great tits, and then we're just gonna fucking torture you for weeks. And we hung him upside down and sideways, and I mean, it's not like we hung him sideways for like 20 minutes. It's like every time that we said this is going to be a little comfortable, it'd be like the dog. This is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, and then we leave him there for 14 hours. It's like if the doctor came in and said this is going to pinch a little, right, and then he just like jabbed that needle in there for 14 hours. and the little idiot kept coming back.
I will say this. I wish I could remember the article, or where I read it. It was just recently, but they mentioned how in part 4, with him, like 4 is literally the ultimate 80s film, right? Because it had a death by waterbed.
Right. It did. Absolutely. And you know what? They asked him about it. They said, so what was it like to be drowned by Freddy? And he goes, well, compared to Nightmare on Elm Street 3, it was like a day at a spa.
Well, that's what it's funny you mentioned that, because I do think it was one of the movies that made us, but it's somebody quoting somebody that is either quoting or quoting somebody that worked with Bob Shaye, and they just keep saying you got to suffer for your craft. And that was the ongoing advice that was given when it came to working on those films. So obviously he took a page from that book and suffered.
I'm not kidding. My wife and I, and this is the only time that she and I both went to a rap party ever. We went to the rap party for Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and it was Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was where I learned how to just deal with like bad situations. I mean, like the budget people will come out and go, look, we're having this problem here and this problem here, this problem here. And I go, okay, I'll fire the crew. And I go out and fire the crew. And literally in the morning, they would come and say, nothing's ready. And I go, well, yeah, yeah. And they go, like, you can't do that. And I go, well, you didn't have any money for me. And they go, look, we'll find you some money. And I thought, and I learned from there on. I said, okay, well, you know what? If you don't have enough money, I'll go home. How about that? I've got a solution for you. You know what? Tell you what, better yet, next time I'll leave the crew and I'll just go home. How about that? neither way did it seem to work with them. Some people are never happy. But so we're at the party. She didn't think I was going to get back to the party.
Well, I was about to ask a question if you didn't, but keep going.
So we're at the party. It's a bowling party, right?
Yeah.
You know, and Bob Shay comes up to me where me and Paula are saying, and I mean, this is literally, I did not sleep. Literally, the longest I have ever actually been awake, which was 72 hours.
Whoa.
And then I ran out of gas in my car, which is really strange. But yeah, and I mean under stress for that long. Literally awake that long just because I was under stress all the time, right? Just because I just couldn't get it. We were shooting 4 units and nobody had all the answers all the time, right? It was just me. And so it was really hard on me, you know. And so my wife and I are bowling, and Papa Shay comes up and goes, "Well, you know what? I gotta tell you, Mick. I guess it came out all right. And then he goes, although I cannot agree with the way that you deal with the budget." And my wife started in on him. She was in psych, and we agreed on the way out that was the last one, that she really wasn't going to be able to show up for any more of these, because I literally had to back her up.
So not only did you work on, because we've actually never really talked to you about Nightmare on Elm Street. And I know, I'm imagining that's the number one question you get, right? Are the Nightmare films?
He wrote a book.
I mean, I know you wrote the book, but past the book.
Well, the number one question I got is like, did you leave that smell in there?
It's usually pointing at me.
Was that you? Oh my God.
I said that when I took a drink out of my water cup. I was going to say,
learn to turn on a fan.
But so past your joke, are the Nightmare films the number one thing you get asked about?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not even close, right?
Let me tell you, I gotta tell you, I just want to show you this. Is I always get this. This happens at least twice a week. Would you happen to have any props or anything from Leatherface for sale?
So Leatherface is number 2?
Just Joe Blow, right?
Right.
I get asked every 2 days if I have any critters from Critters 2, if I have anything from Fantastic Four, or do I have a spare claw, a spare glove hanging around from Freddy? You know, it's like every 2 days I have to put up with that shit. I'm like,
that's annoying.
It's incredibly annoying. And here's the thing. And I found out that this is just my personality.
But Mick, do you?
Sorry. Okay, then I'm going to tell you exactly what I tell everybody else.
That was an easy joke. I had to do it.
Yeah, you know, it's like, never let me said you didn't go for the cheapest joke you could find.
Exactly.
Well, that way you get, you know what? That way you get more joke for your money.
And these fuckers who are listening to this aren't paying a dime, so you go right ahead.
I am the Dollar General of punchlines.
Which means he's in very rural areas.
Yeah, no.
So the reality is that when I walk out of a show, I hate everything.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, and it's an artist thing, you know. It's like the piece of art that you hate the most as an artist is the one that you just finished, right? And it's like, oh God, I can't. I remember having this discussion literally while they were taking the steel doors that they took the steel doors that I had made for Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I went out and made them myself at 4 o'clock in the morning because they had done it 3 times and got them wrong every time for the claws, right? And I finally went out and just cut them with a torch myself and built the whole thing, right? And as they were taking it off and putting it in a dumpster, I remember I had like one crewman or something going, don't you want that? I was like, what? You're gonna put it in my fucking living room? I mean, really? Are you kidding? I mean, you know, I have a lot of kids. I guess I could just throw one of them out and put it in there and put it in that room. But I just have absolutely no attachment to it. And you know what? Here's the advantage for the way that I think of things. It's still going to be around forever.
Right. Well, too, and it's and you correct me if I'm wrong here. You know, it's like we always hear stories of actors like, oh, I stole this mask, I stole this ring, I stole this dress. Actors are maybe on set. They have a job, they have a hard job, but their jobs are small and minute. And so, but you're working your ass off 3 days straight just to get and you're like, I'm exhausted. I don't want to have anything to do with this after I'm done with it.
You start on a nightmare. You start, 10 to 12 weeks before everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the amount, and from that point, you're not sleeping. Right. And you go on and on through the whole show, and I always used to get this weird thing is like in the last few days of the show, it's like that list. And here's another thing about being that much centered in the show is that your list changes all the time so that you can't actually write it down. If you did, by the time you actually got it all written down, it would all be completely and horribly out of date. Right. Mm-hmm. So what I used to do is I used to make the film in my head. And then as the film would change, then I would know that everything that I had to do would have to change in such and such a way. So all I had to do was, if you told me currently, even without changing the script, if you told me currently how we were going to do it, that's how we did it. Right. I would have everything for that. Script never made any difference to me at all. I usually read it a couple of times and then just it goes to the back of my head. It's like from then on, it's a huge verbal thing from then on. But the end of the film, like you would get to that last week and you would have been fewer and fewer things on the list. And so the list start going faster and faster and faster. And then the list is gone and you start looking around going, hey, they put a stop sign in right next to my house.
No. But
my wife goes, yeah, they did that 6 months ago. I go, really?
But you've talked about this before. There's literally you have thrown in dumpsters as the show quits, because like you've talked about before, who's ever going to give two shits about Critters 2? Of all the things that if you'd have had a warehouse, you would be sitting on $100 million.
See, that is the other thing though, is you don't know. And here's the totally strange thing is if you look at my resume, the weird thing about it is there is something to be said for me having collected stuff, because I worked on a lot of really weird, iconic stuff. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you, not everybody did. I mean, yep. Jacques Aitken, take a look sometime. Take a look at Jacques Aitken's resume. Now, I love Jacques Aitken.
And he's the DP on Nightmare on Elm Street for everybody, right? Is it right?
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, and he did Quiet Cool, and he worked with me on The Hidden, and he's just one of my nearest and dearest friends, and can be a complete jerk. Don't get me wrong, but the thing is you look at his body of work from Nightmare on Elm Street up. He's done as many films as I have. You won't recognize one of them, And I go, wow, how is it? See, and it's funny is like, so you don't know how cloistered you are when you're working in the business and you're working in the Hollywood area. You're only as good as the next thing that you're going to do.
Right.
And so you tend to like just throw the past out. It literally wasn't until a few years ago that I kind of all of a sudden realized like there was a possibility that somebody else remembered the films that I had done. Right. Mm-hmm. But I run an extraordinarily huge bunch of them are are really well remembered these days, you know, even if at the time, you know, we were in the gutter. I mean, you know, porn stars had more, you know,
than horror films, especially in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, God, it was in the 80s, you know, we were pretty far down the old totem pole. You
were making all the money. You were making tons of money, though. I mean, they were doing the box office. For
yeah, right. We weren't making any money at all.
You weren't making any money. But you've told that story before, that Rachel Talalay at your sister's funeral, correct? Said, have you thought about your?
Honestly, she.
And Rachel Talalay directed Freddy's Dead. She went on to, I'm sorry, just for our audience. She went. Actually, she's famous all over again for directing Doctor Who now.
Right. Oh yeah. No.
Yeah, and many other things. Yeah, and you know, that's one of the things.
And I feel like Girl and
Girl, which is one of Chad's favorite movies.
And she is one of my favorite human beings in the world. I talk to her all the time.
My daughters just actually recently loved the movie that she made. So
yeah,
Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting. They loved it.
Yeah, and the thing is she came up to me at my sister's funeral and she said, you know, you ought to think about your legacy. And I was like, my what? Your legacy. And I honestly, I just sit there. I went, you mean I have a legacy? I just never occurred to me. It never occurred to me.
Yeah, I completely understand that, because here's my next question that I was going to ask. I got all the way back to get back to this. Your legacy is I can't believe that, as we've been talking, and I've wanted to do this a dozen times, because full disclosure, we're all friends. And it is cool that we get to hang out. We just hung out together for 3 days at Scarefest. Yeah. I've never asked you, have we ever asked him about the Fat Boys and working on the Freddy's?
We talked about it briefly in our second episode, but we never got into it.
I don't even remember the brief. By the way, this is my problem, is I don't go back and listen to episodes. Mick knows this, by the way, already. It's like, you go listen to it, Mick. He goes, fuck no, I don't listen to my stuff. And I go, I don't try to.
And it's honestly kind of funny, Mick. I do got a story about this week. You know, again, my kids love Halloween like I do.
Yeah.
And I dropped them off at school, and we have this period where we have to wait in the car, and we talk, but that one day we were listening to music, and they're like, Daddy, what'd you listen to at Halloween? And I started listening we started listening to it. And then I pulled out my phone. Mick, I completely forgot. I pulled up the Fat Boys video, and the girls are watching it going, this is amazing. And I'm not joking, because, you know, and you all, for our listeners, I had a conversation with Mick about my daughter. I told her I was going to have dinner with Mick, and she goes, who's Mick? And I said, oh, honey, he's a friend of mine. We met through Scarefest. He actually makes movies. Well, what movies did he make? And I started listing them off, and I said the Fantastic Four, and her mouth dropped. And she's like, tell him I think the Fantastic Four is amazing. And I said, I will do that, honey. But anyway, so they know your name. So they're watching the Fat Boys video on the phone, and the credit, and I didn't realize it had credits.
Yeah,
I completely forgot.
Strange that it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I completely forgot Mick worked on this. And they go, Daddy, is that your friend? And I look over. It's like, oh Jesus, yeah, that's Mick.
That was with them. I was hanging out in front with them on those little scooters that were promoed, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
and we're all sitting out there, and everybody had to take a turn going out and babysitting them. Because nobody trusted, because that was right where we were going to do Freddy's Nightmares, right?
Yeah.
And we were just using that warehouse space just to load stuff in and get ready for that show. And so I mean, they kept saying things like, well, we want to make sure that, you know, they don't get hurt in there. And I know 100% that not get hurt means that none of the computers disappear or anything like that. Because, right? Yeah, so I'm hanging out there. It's my turn to go hang out with them. And I'm sitting on a scooter, and they're sitting on a scooter, and everybody starts talking about who's better, you know, who's, you know, like, it's and everybody would like they pulled their favorites and it was like Leatherface. I think it was Leatherface and Jason and Freddy, right?
Yeah.
The classics. They just went with the classics, right? And like who's better? And I just remember them going back and forth. And after, so at some point, the really short, really heavy guy with gold teeth, right?
Yeah.
Starts getting just quiet. And he had a very high voice. He sung all the high parts for them, right? And all of a sudden he goes, man, I'm telling you, it's Freddy. Freddy's the baddest ever. And you know why? You know why, huh? Right? You know why? Because Freddy come and get you in your dreams, man. And he goddamn dreams. And how can I deal with that? And the way that he said it was so forceful and so in such a weird voice that everybody had to go, yeah, okay.
Well, I love your impersonation. So you were rolling, right? Was it after 3 or 4 that they did that season of Freddy's Nightmares? I can't remember. Was it right after 4 or is it after 3? I don't remember.
Right after 4.
Is it right after 4?
Yeah, right after 4.
Did you work on all the episodes?
No, I think
your IMDb has you at like 10 or 12.
22. I think I did the first 22.
You did the first 22?
There were I think there were 44 1-hour episodes made.
Yeah. And they're really hard to find now.
I did the first 22.
Ever.
They split the seasons at 22, so they did 2 seasons, and there's just no way I could do another. I mean, literally, I was so tired in the last 2 or 3. I remember that it was like Thanksgiving. I think that we were on our 18th or 19th, and it was just, at that point, it was just hanging on by my fingernails. And I had a day off, and my wife sent me out to get milk at the supermarket. And I was going, and my dad found me, like I think an hour and a half later, came down, and literally I was just going down aisle by aisle, just looking at every item going, well, that's not milk. And that's not milk. And that's not milk. I was toast. It's
completely awful, but that's not the only anthology series you worked on. You also worked on Tales from the Dark Side.
Yeah, way back in the day. I mean, that was great because you know what, you'd get a script and people would say, well, how are you going to do this?
That was made for Lauren.
Because everybody that worked on the stage was an absolute moron.
Well, where were those?
Including myself. I was probably one of the more the cream rises to the top.
Yeah.
And like, no matter what I think I was a construction coordinator, had absolutely nothing to do with it. It's just like you just went as a group and went, yeah, let's go do this. And, we're going to make that. And we're going to get this. And that was, the whole thing was like kind of that way. It was, it was like a learning experience for everybody and a learning without teachers. Sort of like Doctors Without Borders.
Mm-hmm.
learning filmmaking without teachers,
And both of those shows, I mean, even Freddy's Nightmares was low budget, right?
Yeah, no, they were. We were filming down in a place that was in the very heart of the old industrial part of LA, down south and east of LA proper. And we were right next to the Oscar Mayer, and they still had the stockyard, and their processing plant was right there. And we used to call it Pig Death Thursday. And on Pig Death Thursday, you could hear the scream. We couldn't film on Pig Death Thursday because of the screams of the pigs and the smell.
Oh my God.
Big shit would roll over our little
I grew up on a farm, and I can picture so much of what you just said. And no, you're not filming nothing unless you're filming pig deaths. You
ain't filming anything, man.
That sounds awful.
Oh, that would be our weekend. Would be start that day and Friday, because those are the 2 days that everything just stunk and their screaming was in the air and stuff. And it was like, oh man, it was a fun place.
Really now, fun. Have you ate a hot dog since?
Not often, I'll tell you.
Whatever.
I enjoyed it.
Actually, they didn't go to work, but he still did, just to watch. Just to watch. Well, I'm gonna ask.
The great thing is this is if you look it up, you ought to look up what the building looked like because it was painted with all of these happy dancing pigs all over it. They were everywhere. The happy dancing pigs were everywhere. And it was like, oh my God. You know what? The pictures of the happy dancing pigs doesn't make up for the screams of terror and the
false advertising.
Yeah, false advertising and the waves of shit smell coming off of that building.
Oh my God.
I have to ask you a question though, and this may be a question that you don't get asked a lot about a film you don't get asked about a lot, but talking about immortality in film and your legacy, you do have the Nightmare on Elm Street. You have worked on horror anthologies that people still regard highly. You also worked on a film that became an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000, Alien from LA. I just want to know if you have any Alien from LA stories.
Alien from LA was I want to say.
You were the construction foreman, according to IMDb.
Yeah, sort of.
Did I break Mick? Did I get broken head?
I don't even know that one.
Alien
that's Kathy Ireland's. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I blanked out.
Hold on, because I'm putting this in perspective.
Also another Canon picture that you worked on.
It was a Canon picture. That's right. Okay, I was going to say that was a Canon picture. Okay, here's the thing. Most of that was made in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And the parts that we made were, we had an enormous warehouse, and they shot that film over a 2-year period in little bits and pieces trying to fix it because it was terrible. And think about this, even worse than it actually was when it was released. It was terrible. And so we had this enormous warehouse, and we came in and we built all these fix-it sets for that, which is really weird because that's kind of like later on became a theme for things that I did later on, is figuring out how to fix shit. Right.
Uh-huh.
And so we had all these sets that we had to fix things, and including they had a boiler room there, right? And we went in and we dressed the boiler room for like some mysterious, we put all these organic bits in it, like it had been, like it was steampunked out of the earth, right?
Yeah.
And then I think I spent maybe 8 weeks or something. It wasn't a long time. And I remember that we all got kicked, that they couldn't then film in there, and they had to redo it again because of the asbestos poisoning. They couldn't film in there, but we had been in there for 8 weeks. That's
God.
I cannot figure out why I'm still alive. Trust
me. Between pig death chambers and asbestos houses, you're just knocking them out of the park.
Good times had by all. I mean,
I was trying to look it up. It's directed by Albert Pune, who did like all the Kickboxer films, or a lot of them, and
Cyborg. Yes,
Cyborg,
the original Captain American film.
Yeah. See, but not a lot of those were made in America. They were modified in America,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that was just one that I know, like I said, it got a second life, so to speak, on Mystery Science Theater.
But there's so many that I worked on. I can think of two as an example, but that I worked on that never got into IMDb. Like I did all the Chelsea hotel work and all the interior of the hotel work for Sid and Nancy.
Uh-huh.
And that didn't show up anywhere. That's not on IMDb. The other thing is the other Jeff Burr film.
Stepfather 2?
No, Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. Yeah.
Yeah. See, and I was production design that, and they didn't get that. Yeah. Thing is IMDb is a pretty hit and miss. I mean, nowadays it's critical. I mean, it seems like everybody's career is based on it, but you have to understand that it didn't come out until like 1999 or something like that. And by that time, I'd already been working on the business almost 20 years.
Well, do you ever contact them about correcting it? How big of a bitch is that?
Why would I do that?
I don't know.
I was going to say, but what you're telling us is that they missed those. They missed those that are probably, I mean, Sid and Nancy pretty well known. Right. But they made sure
that guy's name, the director.
They made sure they gave you credit for, and I've got it here on my phone, Rockin' with Roseanne.
Hey, that was a lot of fun.
Roseanne sings funny songs for children is a review, or it's the summary there. So they make sure you got credit for that. So if anybody has any question, hey, who did this work for the set design and construction of Rockin' with Roseanne? That's right. They gave you credit. It's Mick Strawn.
We were standing behind the stage of that, and I was standing there with my construction coordinator, and we were just waiting because there was an entrance out onto the set, right? And we just happened to be on either side of the entrance because we were the guys that were pulling the curtain aside, right? And all of a sudden I heard this enormous fart come out, right? and this I was looking out onto the stage, and somebody behind me goes, well, that's a good one. It was Roseanne. That was a good one.
By the way, I can almost guarantee this is a podcast exclusive for Bonehead. Yeah. Nobody else gave you.
There you go. I'm telling you, I've never told that one before.
About
nobody's ever brought that up.
Well, Rockin' with Roseanne.
And we've been going for an hour and a half. I want to, before we leave, I do want to talk about something we never do. And other than it was great hanging out with you at Scarefest, I want to talk about your upcoming projects because I know you're going to be doing 2 or 3 things, and I want you to talk about them. First of all, are you still going to be acting in Tatnus's film?
Yes, I'm going to play his grandfather. I'm going to be playing his grandfather. Which
what else? Go ahead.
Which is funny. I just had a long discussion with him the other day, and let's put it this way: by the end of the discussion, we had finally figured out that my safe word was going to be peanut butter falcon. So whenever I just wanted to break away from the son of a bitch, because we get talking, we can't stop, and so I created. I say, when I say peanut butter falcon, I'm going to leave. All right. And he goes, peanut butter falcon. That's great. And I said, peanut butter falcon. And I hung up.
And for you guys who don't know, he's an MMA fighter. He owns Tatnus. Who are we talking about? You want to say his name, or are we allowed?
Oh, yeah, sure. Clary,
Keith McClary.
Keith McClary. McClary. I always have trouble with McClary. You know, he's Canadian.
Yeah, and Keith's really nice. So you've got that.
Really funny guy.
What are you going to be doing?
I've got that coming up. I have another show in Canada that I am playing. I am not only production designing, but I'm doing the wraparound on the primary wraparound character as the bookseller.
Oh, when do you do that?
I actually have done half of it, and the rest of it I'm doing in January.
Oh, that's cool. That's a great time to be in fucking Canada.
Oh, you know what? I swear to God, I went out there to do that this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking to myself, Toronto, wow, it was 100. I'm telling you, it was 100 degrees here, and raindrops were dropping and then just turning around right at about eye level and going back up again. And it was the humidity. It was just horrible. And somebody invited me up to Canada to film for like a couple of weeks. And I thought, oh man, that's incredible. I would love that. And then I got a plane, and guess what? It's 100 degrees at 85% humidity in Toronto.
Nice.
I was. But Toronto's a fun city.
It's never like this, and I say, well, yeah, that's because it followed me.
But at least Toronto is a fun city. There's a lot of great restaurants, a lot of things to do.
Oh, I know. It does have. It's very interesting. It's got so many little tiny. It's like the land of little tiny stores. You know, it has 100,000 little tiny places to get lost.
Okay, so you're also doing something for Jack Shoulder. Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah, I think that just recently changed. It's called Fear of the Night, but I think it's I think it's been changed. Jack Shoulder and I are working together. We hadn't worked together in 30 years. 35, 34, and by 30 years I mean probably 40.
Not since The Hidden.
Not since The Hidden, yeah. It's a vampire. It's a really an interesting take on the vampire film. It's sort of it's feminized, a vampire film.
Are you doing the production design?
I'm doing production design on that. Then next year I'm directing a film called The House in the Pines.
That's the one where the Boneheads are going to expect some sort of at least on set.
Yes.
We're going to make our way there.
That's gonna film in Tennessee, and you guys will be here as my own personal slaves. I'm directing that one.
Do I have to wear one of those? Do I have to wear one of those ball gags, or are we talking different types?
This is where he's going. And by the way, if he goes back and listens to it, this is where he's going to use the fish food.
You won't get that joke now, Mick, but later,
yeah,
before
later, I'll mean that laugh. So who's the other one is I'm also working on a film called Campfire that films next year. That has a huge cast in it, and most of these films, like I start out by advising them on something, and then I unintentionally get dragged into it. So
well, and you enjoy.
But McClary, in all honesty, McClary was just asking for it, son of a bitch.
And he's and we can just say this out loud. We did a couple of pilots for him for something too for podcasting. So we kind of he's never really gotten back to us.
I don't know if it's I don't know. I think that he might have taken a left-hand turn with his creativity.
Yeah, now he's making his own damn movie.
And now he's making his own damn movie. And and who else is he going to ask about things?
Right. No, I actually wasn't being sarcastic. I normally would have just stopped it there going, yeah, he's a nice guy. I actually think he is a really nice guy.
He's a really nice guy.
He and I messaged back and forth the other day about when he starts doing his crowdfunding for it.
The reason the way that I got a hold of him is he just got a hold of me as an interesting celebrity type. And I was on his show, and basically he just stomped Americans and I stomped Canadians for an hour and a half, and
we're supposed to have
it's pretty much been going that way ever since,
And you guys have done a couple of podcasts together, so that leads me to, and we were supposed to have Keith scheduled on the show, and we've not done that either. So sorry, by the way, if he's listening right now, we promised to get that done. I got to ask you a question. What about podcasting? Have you not been? You're still doing a little bit, but Rabbit Hole kind of.
You know what? I couldn't. Rabbit Hole drove me crazy. Just the trying to keep. Rabbit Hole evolved into a guest show.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too long.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
I just didn't. It's just the thing is I got a lot of, as you can tell, I got other things up and happening, and I just it's complicated,
You're still doing Dream.
Now, Kurt and I, though, for Dream Warrior Review, we're on. I think we're 300.
You got us beat
50 or something like that. 350 episodes, and the funny thing is if you look right now, because he just now get this. So I moved to Washington.
Yes.
Right. And moved right down the street from him, and we started a podcast and all the rest of that. And then Great Sadness comes and I moved to Tennessee, and he just moved to Knoxville.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Why did he move to Knoxville? Now you can tell me this later. We're now having a personal conversation about
Actually, Kurt. I know for a fact that I can't say.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
There's a lot of let's put it this way. There's a lot of people in Knoxville that work in a certain business that you can't talk about.
Yeah. Got it. Absolutely got it. So that's cool that maybe we can do some convention stuff together. That maybe he'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as he gets in and settled and yeah.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, you got any more questions for Mick before we go?
I mean, there's always more questions, but we'll just have him back on the show.
That's true.
I get. You know what? It's one of the tragedies is that Todd Farmer has actually done more of these shows than I have.
I don't think he has now after you've done this.
Yeah, I know. I know, but it bothered me.
Is that the reason you wanted to come back on? Was that it?
Yes.
Hold on. Wait.
God damn it. Why is everybody, you're like the second person who's been jealous over, I shouldn't say me, but us in the last 3 or 4 days.
This is the best thing that could happen to us. We need to keep playing them against each other. And then what will end up happening, though, because it's the way our show works, they'll end up doing a podcast together.
It'd be really successful.
You know that I'm a walking false affectation anyway.
I don't even know what you just said, but that sounds correct.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
So, Todd, by the way,
I just literally have spent my entire life just careening from one thing to the other. I don't even know how I finish sentences.
All right, I was about to let you go, but I can't. I probably should have opened with this, but you got into it with the Kyotos the other day, and if anybody doesn't know who that is, and I actually thought that was the reason you wanted to be back on. I should have known it was because you didn't want Todd to have your reigning champion as far as being on here. I should have known you're just a selfish son of a bitch.
Oh, you wanted me to get in and say something serious about the Kyoto situation?
Well, no, the Kyoto people they're the Kyoto brothers, and it's just one specific that I know of that you were arguing with, and it's funny. Yeah. Another person who's been on the show, Patrick Reed Johnson, who was a fantastic guest and been wonderful to us, also was arguing on the same post, but they tend to be a little more conservative. You don't know who they are. They did the Critters, and they did and honestly, and they did and they actually directed and made the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which a lot of people love, and I like it too.
Honestly, that it's the conservatism was just like the match that lit everything that I've always wanted to say to him that I didn't want to, that I couldn't say because I had to, because it's a very small, because it used to be a very small town, right? Is that on Critters 2, him and his crew were the most unprofessional fucking clowns you'd ever seen. And the thing that's really funny, the way that you could tell that was that when they came to the set, they were the ones that did Killer Clowns, right? And so everybody would go, well, the clowns are supposed to show up at like 4. and they kind of only were halfway referring to the movie, if you see what I'm saying. Yes. Right?
So you're saying they were unprofessional and were not timely.
Yeah. And the thing is everybody in Hollywood has an ego. Mm-hmm. And they had egos that I'm not sure that they were I'm not sure that their stuff was ever brilliant. Let's put it this way. I worked with a lot of really, really good people, and they created a fucking ball with hair.
This is where I would like to have the Kyotos on just for you all. This is where I don't want Bonehead to get this way, but it would be a great episode, don't you think, gentlemen, if we just had them all sounding off. We got Patrick Reed, because Patrick Reed Johnson was going off on them as well, talking shit. And I'm going to name drop a little bit and just go, oh, this was the great part. So people ask me, so there's no money in this. There's no money in the convention stuff. I mean, it's very little money, and it's very little, like a dinner here and some tickets there and $100 there or whatnot. Yeah. I make a living. But one of the great things about doing all this with my life was looking through my social media feed going, I know that fucker. And that fucker and that fucker are going over on these three fuckers, and this is hilarious because I know them personally.
The funniest thing that I've ever done in my life was meeting you and then having that weird and I saw Haley too.
Yeah. Haley, who used to be our producer.
And then doing that weird your second show ever, right? And telling the story about Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. Well, that's a good one because we actually had a.
I thought when I told that story, I honestly God thought that you guys were going to die, that you weren't going because you couldn't even catch your breath. And I was thinking, if I keep going, is this murder?
But it was good. You're talking about the huge dick in your face for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Which is, if you've ever listened to an episode of Bonehead, not that we don't, but that's good. That's a story for us. That's a story we're going to want to hear.
I have not. I've only told that story like 2 or 3 times. I, for the most part, I just refer. I say, you have to go and see the second episode of Bonehead, and you can get the story because I'm never going to tell it as good as that particular time.
It's not the second episode. I got to share that out. I'll do that this week and tag you.
Mick was our second interview.
Interview. You're not the second.
Attach it to this.
But the funny thing is I remember that we actually had a lady who was helping us, who was keeping this the convention center folks from coming into that room. I don't know if you knew that or not. Who kept saying we've got something because it was actually time had passed.
Yeah,
they were reclaiming the convention center.
We didn't have access to that.
We didn't have access.
No. I remember totally doing that because I kept turning over and going. It's like and looking really official and going.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, you can't come in here. You can't come in here. I'm talking.
One of those people doesn't talk to us anymore, but Haley still talks to us when we see it still, so that's always good. She just couldn't. She just was done with our antics after 60 some episodes, but we never would have got. I always try to give her credit. Is that I don't know. We would have.
By the way,
we needed her.
The first Mick Strawn episode is episode 23.
Really? 23?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we did a lot of episodes where we just talked in circles, which is,
Gotcha. And that's the stuff that I like now. So.
Yeah.
I mean, where we had such topic as wire ghost jerks.
No, it's called wire ghost dicks, by the way. That's what the episode was.
I like
Nick, go ahead.
I like the little Bonehead call outs to me when I'm actually listening. Yeah.
Oh, you've got a bunch in this one, bud.
Yeah.
We're terrible people.
We got a bunch. We for some odd reason, Mick, everybody knows this, is that Mick prefers this one. It's just the 3 of us.
You know what? I've gotten addicted to Todd Farmington.
Farmer.
Farmer. Not Farmer. I'm sorry, confusing him with a game.
Well, that's I met somebody at Scarefest. Go ahead.
I was so wrong. Episode 13 was Mick's first episode. He came back 10 episodes later.
I did. Yeah, that's right. I came back again. But I have to tell you, Todd, I would really like to meet Todd.
I want you all to meet. I would love for him to come to Scarefest or something. And
yes,
he just doesn't do a lot of conventions.
I think that he and I would get along really well. I really do.
Yeah, no, he's hilarious. But what I forgot what the hell I was going to say, other than I really wish we could hang out more. It was really great seeing you the other week. I'm sorry that the other 2 Boneheads weren't at Scarefest the whole time, although you were working.
Yeah. No,
not you, James. Mick.
No, I was doing nothing. I try to spend my life the best way I can as a worthless layabout.
It's awesome when you're on the stage, and they had the world's shittiest stage for me out there in the middle of all that. They didn't have a room.
Yeah, the stage
is awful.
Well, listen, the thing is I was literally sitting across from what I call as the conspirators stage,
Yeah.
Or the guys that come in and they get up to the mic and they go, Area 51 back in like
no, you're absolutely
Area
right.
51 in 1947, and then it drones on and on, and they never look up.
Let me tell you why the Wendigo was actually controlling your Citibank card.
Well, let me. The problem is, if they look up, you'll read their mind.
You know, here's the problem. The thing is I always say this. You know what? I think uniforms should be absolutely required, so that you know the clowns.
Well, and you do, and really, I do another quick shout out. You do a really good job with your presentation, because I have finished a panel and ran over, and you'd already started, and then I interrupted like an asshole. Sorry, as I was trying to say.
My neighbor Hannah Fear, I think it's Fearberg or something like that.
Yeah,
I love her to death, by the way. And she, when I walked back, she says, "Oh my God, I didn't think anything interesting was ever going to happen over there."
Yeah, he does. So for you other two, you missed it. He did the whole presentation, and he had visual aids, and he showed the scenes of how he broke down certain scenes from Nightmare on Elm Street and Mortal Kombat, and it was fantastic. And you did a really good job. And he had the common decency and the smarts to know that the crowd that was there wasn't asking any questions. And about 40 minutes going, "All right, I'm good. I'm right over here. Come over here and buy a fucking book when you're done."
That's right.
He didn't say it that way. You were really nice, but that's what I would have said. But right before, you got all these people out, no, all of them being real respectful, but not asking questions. And I hear across the way, "Hey, Joe Lewis," as I'm trying to do something on the stage. It's always Mick Strawn.
Wait a minute. You mean I just yelled at you?
Well, and you did it too when there was that one guy, and there's nobody in the audience that showed up for his thing.
Well, that's
the way,
I was.
They scheduled it at 3:00 on Sunday. I felt bad for the bastard.
I was just mocking you,
Yeah, I'm sitting up there, and it started out with, by the way, "I'm not familiar with any of your work. Will you please just tell me what we're about to talk about? I'll take care of you."
Who the hell you are? What was your name again? Yeah,
he was really nice, by the way.
Yeah, I also assume that nobody's ever gonna. It surprises me when anybody ever actually recognizes me.
Oh, they all knew you, and that's all I got was, "Are you sure you two aren't related?"
That's all I kept hearing when I was there.
Have you all been related?
Are you guys related? I was like, really? I'm so much better looking than
he is. He's more entertaining. He's more successful. He's funnier. Anyway, James, you had something before we went?
No, I was just, if nobody's ever, if you've never came to Scarefest, hey, come. If you've never been to a convention,
there was a big crowd there this year. They did a really good job.
They're all. I don't care if you just go to people watch, because some of my favorite memories have been when I was moderator. Joe normally does the main stage, and I would do some of the other ones and things like that. And doing some of the paranormal ones, some of the things I learned was fascinating. But occasionally you would just have weird moments. And one of my favorite moments, that if you would have told me that morning, I would have to say this line to close out a panel that I was moderating: "Please buy this man's underwear. College is expensive." I would have never thought I said it. But the true story is, I was doing Barry Bostwick from Rocky Horror Picture Show in Spin City. And I mean, he's got a great career. But he made the comment as we were getting ready for the panel. I said, "Hey, is there anything you don't want to talk about? Normal panel preset stuff." And he said, no, just let everybody know that I'm selling underwear like I wore it in Rocky Horror Picture Show at my table. And I sell it because I'm paying for my kids' college. And so at the end of the panel, I had to get up and I said, "Please," and actually I said it this way. I said, "I actually work at a college. He's 100% right. College is expensive. Please buy this man's underwear at his table."
I could do 20 minutes on that. I mean, come on.
It was, but I didn't know that's where my day was going to go.
You didn't know. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to be, what else has he been in? Let me think. Because I talked to FDR, the FDR American Badass movie. I was already all for all that. But I did not know I'd be pitching under.
I had the utter joy of Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell's. I've known Bruce Campbell since we met down in New Zealand. He come up and he's that my guide dog needed his own guide dog, and I got to take a great picture of him.
Yeah. Pointing at Toby,
scolding my dog. So
yeah. No, I had a great time, and we've been 2 hours. So why don't we just try to book you in the next little while and just come back on and we'll shoot the shit for all the stuff.
We'll continue this. There are other things.
Yeah.
Seriously, we have seriously never ever talked about Mortal Kombat. So we have plenty to talk about.
Well, we've talked about it at dinner.
Yeah, but not on air.
That's true.
Plus, to be honest, we need to know when are you getting cast in the Jerry Garcia biopic?
You know,
he had to end with that.
Here's the great thing about me looking like Jerry Garcia is I have listened to Jerry Garcia since he and I were both skinny.
You could say that. You couldn't have said that about me. I don't think I've ever been skinny.
No, I mean, no, Joe, I did have to end with that, but at least I got that response. That's what I accomplished today.
Yeah, that's what you got. Yeah. Okay,
all
guys.
Right, guys. It's been Bonehead Weekly. I almost said Fun Size again, the other damn show that we did.
Yeah.
This has been Bonehead Weekly. We're out of here.
Fun Size.
Uh-huh.